Whether you guys like it or not, AEW is undergoing or will be undergoing major change as we head into a new TV rights deal for All Elite Wrestling. Whether you guys like it or not, AEW isn't going anywhere. We're going to see major changes to the overall product. We're going to see ways in which AEW is digested change. We may be looking at an AEW streaming deal when we get to All In at Wembley. There's going to be a lot of exciting things coming up for All Elite Wrestling. One of the biggest things, one of the most exciting things, in my honest opinion, and my opinion is going to differ here as it did in the past. AEW right now is looking at 5 major pay-per-views throughout the entire year. We have AEW Revolution, we have Double or Nothing, we have Forbidden Door, we have All Out, and we have Full Gear. 5. This year, we've added All In. They're doing All In and All Out a week apart from August into September. That last week of August into September. What if I told you guys that Warner Brothers Discovery wants 12 pay-per-views from Tony Khan, 12 pay-per-views for AEW. Fightful Select dropped this one on Wednesday afternoon. Warner Brothers Discovery sources confirmed to Fightful Select that one of the major proposals from their end to AEW as it relates to an extension for TV rights is the subject of pay-per-views or PLE events if you're WWE. Specifically, a Warner Brothers Discovery source told Fightful that they mentioned the very likely possibility of significantly expanding the AEW pay-per-view schedule even to 1 a month. Fightful was told that this is something that Warner Brothers Discovery has wanted from AEW. Now, nobody knows if this would be standalone or included in a Max streaming deal, as Warner Brothers Discovery sources would not elaborate on that, which means that there is smoke to that fire if that question is not going to be answered. AEW has already expanded their special event schedule, adding Forbidden Door last year and AEW All In this year. However, there have been no broadcast plans revealed for All In as of yet. Nothing in the deal is finalized to Fightful's knowledge, and this could change, but the expanded schedule has certainly been discussed. This is all going to be a part of a streaming deal for AEW. Tony Khan knows what his fan base wants. Tony Khan understands his fan base. Tony Khan is the type of guy that is going to give his fan base what they want and what they desire. They do not want to pay $60 a pop 12 times a year, once a month, for AEW pay-per-views. Now, I'm sure all of those shows would be worth it because AEW, if they do one thing right, if they do one thing correct, it is pay-per-view. I think most of the time they churn out a banger show if you're going to be shelling out 50, 60 bucks for a pay-per-view. But I think when we get to All In and we get closer to All In, I think those questions will then be answered. I do think that All In is going to be the one show that kickstarts AEW getting their shows, their major shows, on Max, and they'll be right there on the streaming service, and you sign up for the streaming service. Now, whether you have to pay premium price on top of subscribing to Max, that remains to be seen. Again, I don't think Tony Khan would do that to his fan base. I just think that AEW would be back-ended with the TV rights deal. I think they get paid for all that up front by Warner Brothers Discovery. If Warner Brothers Discovery wants 12 pay-per-views a year from AEW, then Tony Khan has the ball in his court, and he can basically say, all right, I'll give you what you want, but I have to be paid. We have to be paid. So if Warner really wants that, then they're going to have to offset the price of the pay-per-views, which they normally do. What is it, 140, 150,000 buys a quarter for one of those major shows? They have to be paid in that, estimated for those shows to be, having those shows on Max, get those shows on Max, and you pay $9.99 or whatever it is to subscribe to Max to watch those premium shows from AEW. I think that's a great deal. I think that's a great move. Also, I was against 12 pay-per-views early on in the life cycle of AEW. I did not want them to do the WWE premium live event thing where we get one show a month. I don't like that. I wish WWE actually would cut down on actual pay-per-views, but that's not going to happen because they have a Peacock streaming deal that they have to honor, and Peacock subscriptions and WWE analytics and all the numbers are up with all the premium live events streaming on Peacock. I don't like it. That's just me speaking personally. But let's think about this realistically. If AEW goes to 12 pay-per-views, how are you guys going to feel about that? The way I see it, I think there's more positive than negative to come out of that. Right now, we have 5 major shows, 6 with All In this year, but 5 major shows normally a year for AEW, the ones that I just mentioned. The build for those pay-per-views normally starts about, I would say, 4-5 weeks out till we get to the pay-per-view, with the first few weeks following a major pay-per-view meaning nothing. For example, we have Revolution. And after Revolution, we'll get 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks where there's really nothing going on. And then when we get to about 4 or 5 weeks out, then Tony Khan starts to actually build those shows to build towards the pay-per-view. But we have at least almost a month stretch where there's nothing going on Dynamite, and there's nothing more than matches thrown together on TV that don't really mean anything. Ultimately, they don't mean anything. I don't like that. That to me is dead television. It's a great show. It's a great watching, 2 hours of wrestling, right? But I don't really like that because I would rather the shows mean something. I would rather the shows be heavy into story-driven narratives, building towards a feud, building a story, building towards a match and a show. You can't really do that if you got all these dead weeks because the pay-per-view build and the pay-per-view length in between pay-per-views is so long. So that's the downside to it. So if WWE does 12, AEW can certainly sustain 12 pay-per-views if Warner Brothers Discovery really wants that to happen. So I'm trying to look at the positive here. I was against it. But if it means more shows like Dynamite and Collision meaning something, and we get those big pay-per-view stretches, toned down to about 4 weeks, 5 weeks instead of 8 weeks, 9 weeks, I think it's going to make Dynamite a better show. There'll be more quality Dynamites. There'll be more people on TV that should be on TV, building to those shows instead of using talents, just putting matches together for the sake of putting matches together. You got to think about it that way. So to me, when I read this story, I looked at this and I said, you know what? This could be a positive for AEW television. So I'm going to keep my eye on that. And I do think that we're going to end up getting something like that. And I do think that a new generation of AEW is upon us. And I do think that they'll be moving from the pay-per-view model on to Max. And we'll be getting AEW streaming on Max, just like WWE is streaming on Peacock. Because Tony Khan thinks his company should be in the same league as WWE when it comes to that type of thing. AEW. Speaking of AEW, TV rights deals right now in major discussions between AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery. This is something that is inevitable, and AEW will be paid. 2019 was the year where AEW landed on Warner Brothers TNT every night, every Wednesday night. That led to Rampage premiering in 2021 on TNT on Friday nights, followed by Collision on Saturday nights. So AEW has Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday on Warner Brothers Discovery. We also get Battle of the Belts every quarter, which I think that they could do away with, but that's not my... I don't really have any say in that. I'd get rid of it, but they do the Battle of the Belts as well quarterly. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reported that Warner Brothers Discovery sources had told them that AEW has long been involved in television rights extension talks. The talks have been ongoing for several months, with their personal belief that an announcement could come this summer or fall should they agree to a deal. Warner Brothers sources told Fightful that they've been happy with AEW and their flexibility with adding, subtracting shows while providing different kinds of content and working around preemptions and network changes. It was said that Warner Brothers Discovery's lack of interest in the Ring of Honor brand dates back to when Sinclair still owned the promotion. Ring of Honor is dead. I don't know if you guys watch Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor, basically, they got rid of Dark. They got rid of AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. What you saw on those shows is now Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is the new AEW Dark. That's all it is. AEW has been flexible with overruns as well as other requests Warner Brothers Discovery has made. So they had no interest in Ring of Honor at all. Finally, regarding AEW All In next month at Wembley, it was said that the event's broadcast has been actively discussed as part of these talks, which goes back to what I said in the previous report about AEW and their pay-per-view schedule being upped from 5 to 12. This certainly is going to be all a part of a streaming package for AEW to land on Max. If the two sides reach a deal, it would be a huge money deal and a huge money increase for AEW by the way things are looking right now. Tony Khan's going to get his roster fed. That's the most important thing. A happy roster means a happy AEW and a better AEW. This is a great thing for professional wrestling. This gives AEW more flexibility to find homes for more pro wrestlers who need it. This gives AEW the opportunity to pay those wrestlers that deserve an increase in pay. This keeps AEW around for another 5 years minimum. When WWE was a monopoly destroying the wrestling industry, here comes AEW and provides an alternative and is now the second biggest United States promotion, and it's a viable competitor to WWE, whether you like it or not. This is a great deal. The most important thing out of all of this is that pro wrestling is thriving. When pro wrestling is thriving, we're thriving. When pro wrestling is thriving, you guys are happy, and you got a lot of pro wrestling to digest, yes, but pro wrestling right now is, once again, in my honest opinion, getting to a point where it's cool again. Look at WWE. Tickets are selling out everywhere for WWE, whether it's a Raw, a SmackDown, house shows are selling out. And WWE Premium Live events are absolutely on fire. That's the one thing, the one positive to come out of WWE. They changed the Premium Live events, and they made them a little bit more shorter, and they made them a little bit more quality over quantity. They have taken the Premium Live events international, which boasts, even better audiences and bigger matchups and bigger ticket sales, more revenue for them. This is a great time to be a pro wrestling fan. This is a great time if you're WWE or AEW. Merchandise sales. There was a report that merchandise sales in WWE right now are greater than they were in the Attitude Era. SmackDown generated over a 3 rating for the first 45 minutes of the Tribal Court with Roman Reigns. They gave SmackDown the highest rating that the show has seen since March of 2020. The demographic in the 18 to 49 demo with the Bloodline was nearing a 9.7 or 0.97. And the overall show did almost a 0.80 in the 18 to 49 demographic. You don't think Fox is looking at this shit? You don't think WWE is looking at these numbers fucking smiling from ear to ear? The WWE stock is $113 a share as of Wednesday afternoon. They are making more money than ever before. That's a market cap of almost $9 billion. Wrestling is thriving. I wish they fixed Monday Night Raw, really, because that show sucks. But this is what happens. This is a great deal. And WWE is also going to be in TV rights negotiations. They're going to get probably two televisions and a streaming deal. Who the fuck knows if they're not going to work out a contract to renegotiate the Peacock deal? Who the fuck knows? Who knows? So they got 2 TV rights deals coming up for both NBCU and Fox. I don't know if they're going to be on those same networks or if they're going to move it to one network and have Raw and SmackDown be on the same network under the same umbrella. We may end up getting 3 negotiations for WWE, NBC, Fox, and Peacock if they want to rework that deal as well. Everybody's getting paid. Everybody's getting paid. And everybody's sitting on Twitter, oh, well, the ratings, it's not a good show unless the ratings prove it. I mean, AEW is about to make close to $1 billion. WWE is going to make a couple of billion. So clearly something's going right. Wrestling is in demand. 52 weeks out of the year, pro wrestling is going to provide original content where they don't have an off season, where others do have an off season. Pro wrestling is right now in demand, and it's a great thing. When they thrive, I thrive. When they thrive, you guys thrive and are happy. I love it. So for all this nonsense on social media, oh, I can't wait for AEW to die. I can't wait for Tony Khan to overdose and all this other shit that you hear on social media, man. These people are fucking clueless. Absolutely clueless. This is great, and I hope that AEW gets paid. Surely they will. And finally, guys, Seth Rollins is in the news. Seth Rollins was a part of that six-man tag team match on Monday night. I reported this on Tuesday that there would be, or Wednesday rather, it's Thursday now, I don't even know what day it is. On Wednesday, there was an extra, if you guys want to go check that out, it's on the homepage. Part of a six-man tag team match, there was a minor altercation backstage after the match was over because of the quality of the match, and the wrestlers were upset with last-second changes to what happened in that main event. Obviously, he was a part of that. But Seth Rollins was interviewed by Emo Fuckface with the bad haircut on Fox. And he responds to people who say the World Heavyweight Championship is a consolation prize. He says this, and I quote, I mean, I understand where people are coming from. There's no real right or wrong when it comes to what your opinion is on doing it, but I'm a firm believer that it was a necessity. It was a necessity to have another world championship on Monday Night Raw. I think everybody agrees with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Regardless of how you feel about it or how we got into it or where it ended up or whatever, I just believe it was a necessity. I wasn't offended. I wasn't annoyed or anything like that. If you've watched and followed and saw how Roman has built up his title, it only makes sense, I guess, for you to use the word consolation prize. But for me, again, it didn't feel that way. It felt like a big deal. And like I said, it felt like a big deal because there are so many guys who are now able to be in the shoes that I'm in right now. And the fact that it's me makes it feel like a big deal to me. And I feel a lot of responsibility to represent them and the industry as well as I can and help everything kind of move forward. It feels sometimes with Roman's title reigns that because there's only one challenger at a time and often only every few months that we're in a bit of a holding pattern. A lot of guys were in a holding pattern. So like I said, I am a firm believer that having a title available was a necessity. I feel a lot of humility and responsibility in being the champion that will be there and available for our audience. And I wasn't offended by it. And I totally understood where people were coming from when they said that. Wow. I expected him to actually roast the fan base for this very controversial opinion. But here he is. He gave a very, very down-to-earth and reasonable response for the World Championship. And normally I would sit here and anticipate him saying something stupid, but I really can't argue what Seth Rollins said here. Are the fans wrong to say it's a consolation prize? No, it's not. WWE could have avoided all this. We've talked about this thousands of fucking times on the live streams, on the podcast. We've talked about it, and we've gotten sick talking about it. WWE could have avoided all this. They didn't want it. Vince didn't want the Universal Championship to go away. Triple H wanted one world championship. One world championship between both brands. That's what he wanted. And if he didn't get that, he wanted the WWE title and the World Heavyweight title on separate shows, and he wanted two world champions who were available on both shows at the top of the card. Vince did not want to beat Roman and have Roman drop those titles just yet. Triple H had nothing to do. So as a consolation prize, that's why people call it a consolation prize, and a creative, meeting of the minds here where Vince gets 50% and Triple H gets 50%. Vince, said, you know what? I'm not doing anything with my guy. If you want to create your world championship for Monday Night Raw, you go ahead and do what you got to do. And he gave him the free reign to create a world championship. And Seth Rollins was the guy that was crowned world champion. Is it a consolation prize? People are not wrong when they say that it's a consolation prize, but I'm genuinely shocked that Seth Rollins gave a down-to-earth answer and said that it was a necessity to have a world championship. It didn't have to be a world heavyweight championship that he holds now, but a necessity to have a world championship on Monday night where there was not for over a year and a half. and have a title that the guys can fight over and have a champion that is available every single week, where you're not getting that on Friday night, and challengers are very few and far between. Can't really argue with what he said there. That's why Seth Rollins is the world's heavyweight champion. You want to know why he's the world's heavyweight champion? Because of answers like this. I'm genuinely shocked he gave this type of answer, and I thought that was a great comeback to fuckface's question about the consolation prize that is the World Heavyweight Championship. Guys, I'm getting out of here. If you enjoyed today's extra, please hit that thumbs up. Let's try for 1,000 likes minimum today on OTS. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Cameo, Threads, you name it. Go follow me on social media. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications. Go check out all the other content on the channel. We were live on Monday for Raw. We were live on Tuesday with Tuesday Night Titans. Myself and Andrew Baydala on Tuesday night. Jesse and I were live on Wednesday for Dynamite. Go check all that stuff out. And the next time you'll see me is on Friday night right here from the Beer Garden, right here for the SmackDown post show on Off the Script. Until then, guys, enjoy Thursdays, and I'll see you right back here on OTS for SmackDown Live on Friday night.